welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D Collective. We're gonna chit chat a little bit more on the living and loving mindfully and spiritually front. And if you did tune into our 5D Mystic messages, thank you for stopping by. So you already know about being an inner child adult and being yourself and being updated with that masculine and feminine wholeness. If you are new and you are not into channeled guidance messages, food for thought from mystics, you don't have to go tune on in, but if you are, you might want to check it out. Although I would say that if you were drawn solely to this one, then keep it here, because usually people will find that which is part of what's meant to cross their feed. I am a firm believer in frequency and also in that which resonates with all of you. And so that being said, when you put mindfulness into practice, it's very straightforward to be yourself, because you don't have any of that childhood wound, abandonment, rejection, humiliation, what else, injustice. Okay, so you're not doing the projection of Cusco lies to Pacha. All of Cusco's mannerisms are of that low self-esteem person, and I call it a facade. So we're going to be making fun of facades because there's plenty of them that don't want to go and do any therapy. So they continue to engage in relationships, and they bring to us their unhealthy boundaries. But they're not really unhealthy boundaries. It's more of unhealthy self-soothing, and it's because of them being in their fight flight that I use the word unhealthy, because restorative embodiment and your non-reactivity is healthy, use stress is healthy, and so your capacity to be an integrated brain, a restorative embodiment, is healthy. The ones who are speaking against it, again, totally know what side of the coin and who they're serving and supporting. It's a 3D, 4D state of consciousness and frequency: shame, blame, fault, revenge, fear, everything beneath neutrality on a nice scale that I have from some book that I read a long time ago. And so it's not anything set in stone, and the reality is you got a Zen master who has laundry, you got a bunch of titles of people who don't know how to do the depth of emotional, mental, and physical mastery, and don't want to, because it's you stub your toe and then you use your prefrontal. So I got the focusing my attention in the awareness. I'm not doing hard thoughts, hard feelings. No, I'm doing soft thoughts, soft feelings. So it comes up, and I don't maintain the adaptive child pattern, the facade of rigidity, projection, unforgiveness, harshness, characterological distinction, so shaming, blaming, or doing ich. Okay? And so I'm going to give you some stories that way you can understand. For an empowered person, a Pacha, we're not reactive, and that's why they think it's dangerous to have no emotion. You can't have no emotion. This is why it's not dangerous anything. The fact is that your nervous system has 3 modalities. With Stephen Porges, you learn about it, and our flight fight is unnecessary for interacting with each other. The reason it gets activated is because if you don't have a whole self that knows healthy self-soothing and healthy self-regulating, because you are able to do this when you can see myself, soothe myself, safe, secure to be myself. Okay, I got healthy self-worth, I'm confident. So your confident host here and mentor brings to you what it means when we got facades is you're not being yourself. And I learned from one of my friends how to leave it alone. So today when I'm around a facade, I am consistently non-reactive. If I do get a charge, I will be able to take ownership of it if someone is presenting to me that I'm charged. Okay, and in fact, in the years, what I can tell you is the biggest contributors to allowing me to learn how to self-regulate: my mother and my twin, because with them I got a 3-year-old that still comes up, and my child parts. Obviously my younger sister. Fathers, they're not part of the picture because they're not here anymore, but all those family members, they're the ones you get to play out your nervous system with. So your immediate oversoul, then you got your expanded. Once you get to teenage, you're going to have social system online. So my adolescent years, got a bunch of people from my adolescent years, you know all those stories. And then I got to 24, is our brain now is out of the adolescent years, and it's into, for the feminine, for the woman, 25, our frontal lobes finish to develop. So that's when your executive decision making function areas, That's what it is. The frontal lobes are flopped down for the people, like that woman and man. If they want to use their fight flight, is flopped down, which is why then there's a squishing, and there's a way their brain is, and then there's a way their amygdala uses dark sides of neuroplasticity. I learned this from a neuroscientist lady. So they don't seem to be aware of how to benefit from their ventral vagal state because they don't want to. In fact, it's again quite clear when you hear their stories, and I'm going to leave it alone. So Russell Coates, PhD, being terrified that a rupture means the end of a relationship sets you up from the very beginning to have a relationship that isn't genuine, that isn't real, that doesn't involve being able to just be yourself. When you have people who have unresolved abandonment, injustice, again, the 3-year-old and all childhood stuff, they're going to not be their self. So my facade friend is the story I'm going to use because that's exactly how I told him. Once we were not friends for about 5 years, I did not speak to him. It was because I didn't ask him to pretend. I asked him to just be himself. Instead, he's acting like a facade. So after 5 years, not keep a long story short, we become friends again, and I have 2 days a very serious conversation with them where I say, I just want you to be yourself, the reason why, and I explain, and I find out eventually other years down the line that he didn't hear those 2 days of intense, important, very deep conversation that I had with him. Why? Because he repeated it to me, and it was completely different than what I had told him. And I said, I didn't tell you this. You didn't hear what I said. This is what I said. And I repeated it in that moment. So, we moved forward in our friendship. In fact, we're still friends. At a certain point, I find out that this friend completely doesn't believe in anything mystic, God, none of faith, none of what is a part of my world. And there had been so many things that had taken place already with my oversoul and twin flames. And I'm beyond upset at this point because I'm just finding out about this as we're talking with other people. Now, with other people, their demeanor, everything changes, which is not the only time it's going to happen. When you got a flag that has no flag post, so when you got an adaptive child, when you got a person who doesn't own their core narrative relational solo self as an inner child adult, they don't know how to completely be the observer, witness, narrator, okay? So to take all of that and to get flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable, these are acronyms from all of my attachment courses, particularly Dr. Daniel Siegel. But Terry Real is the adaptive child pattern part where he says rigid, harsh, unforgiving. And that charge is basically like a characterological distinction. It's a judgment, it's a shame tone, it's a disgust tone, it's a blame tone. So you're going to know when in the room you got a not flexible brain who is basically making their opinion and 14-month-old feeling like fancy, again, woman and man who tell you to be all your emotions. You're always going to be emotions. It's how are you in your ventral vagal, or are you a teenager with a 3-year-old who's projecting your rigidity and your chaos, which is in fact going to be noticeable because you're not in control and you're not self-aware. You're not in control because you're not self-aware. You're not even learning how to be a master of you because you didn't even begin to be in a control with self-awareness, with flexibility. So, by the way, people think I control because I'm very analytical and organized. There's a difference with the energetic imprint. You'll know when thoughts and emotions are soft because it's easy to do emotions for me. It's easy to live the unknown for me. It's not laundry, the Zen master. So you're doing prefrontal. You're going to be in a flow state. You're going to notice it. Yoga is good for ventral vagal toning. Mindfulness is good because it allows the 3 pillars of the mind. And so focus, attention, awareness, and kind intention. Awareness is where maximum uncertainty comes up. If you don't own your child parts and you're not a person who's healed, you're going to project those child parts. So when I'm around a facade, thanks to my friend, I know how not to do anything about it. Because when I addressed this thing with him, I realized from the look on his face and again his lack of repetition correctly of what I had told him about being himself, that this is like not in his peripheral view. Today with the technical terminology, yes, a 8-year-old doesn't know shit about themselves. They could be at Terry Real's office right now or Patrick Tiahan's. They don't want to though. They think they're the bomb, like that lady and man. And so, what do you don't do anything. Makes me laugh whenever I remind myself of her words. It's dangerous to have no emotion. inherently not true that healthy and enlightenment, so that it's good to be non-reactive. And I'm like, wow, you came up with that phraseology all by yourself. And then I'm seeing her, stop trying to regulate your emotions. Your emotions have something important to say. You want to regulate them, otherwise you're dumbing yourself down by being reactive and being offline. You obviously don't know what it means to use your prefrontal with your left and right, because if you did, you'd know why you want to regulate the emotional plane as it's coming up, because you're regulating what is your nervous system so that you can think clearly versus be a dumbed down version of yourself. The part that blows my mind away is a person doesn't go and learn neuroscience, neurobiology, doesn't go and learn more, and they think they can brutally dissect modern day therapists and healing and say that the system's trying to keep you in prison. All of her words point to me saying, you got a child that wants out? No, doesn't want out. You don't want to meet yourself. It's what it is. You got a paused self who had some shit go down, meaning not fun shit, which is why I'm going to stay away from it. And that's exactly how it works. So when you don't take ownership of your child parts, you don't take ownership of your abandonment or any of it. Like, again, my friend, oblivious to what I'm saying. I am making a big deal out of nothing. I'm not making a big deal out of nothing. You allowed yourself to be a facade while talking about this, then I come to find out that you have a completely different perspective on it. And I'm using my time with these topics, which is unnecessary. It's a waste of both of our times. Genuine self wants genuine self. You won't be genuine if you don't own, observe, witness, narrate the whole self, and if you don't know how to bring a differentiated self into the mix, which means I have my own thoughts and my own emotions of Maria. I will not be projecting them upon you. I will be able to be flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable, because I'm confident for real, which means I don't need you to say, great job, Maria, bad job, Maria. I don't need these things. Meantime, though, you're not letting me in on your true feelings, thoughts, and interests in a way of allowing us to build consistently a relationship that is genuine and that flows together. And so, again, it's not a your done deal. It's a thing that you address with people. What I've noticed is if you have a pacha, great, because that's where we talk about these things and we welcome it. And usually there's a self-aware, accountable, and regulating person who doesn't want to maintain rigidity, unforgiveness, harshness, the charge. They don't want to have characterological distinction. So they don't want to censor you. They don't want to censor themselves. They don't want you to have to agree with them and with what they think we need out there. You know, like they know those basic human global important things are air, water, and food. We want our countries to get along, so a person who's empowered and genuine and intellectually intelligent, okay, sciences and spirituality, and is not a closed-minded human being who's ignorant and who's basically gonna be what I consider, again, lack of intelligence. The minute you get into characterological distinctions and judgments, that your rigidity, and you project your own personal feeling about something in a way of tainting the room full of your, it's like the Denzel Washington quote. He says people don't defend what is right anymore. They defend who they like, what they like is what I'm going to say, how they like, but really it's not about defending. It's that people don't take ownership of their thought and emotion being felt as an irrefutable fact, number one. So their 14-month-old rules them. And in fact, powerful emotions feel like irrefutable facts. Kristen Lindquist. It's called effective realism. So they don't care to become more expanded, and that's because they're not interested in it. It's a personal journey to want to become more of the mindfulness and spiritual person that you can, which is what I'm describing right now. And so essentially being non-reactive, you choose that. The empowerment is from within here, and it's not needing a fancy word, but if you do want one, definitely enlightenment, integration of the brain, restorative embodiment. You're going to be your true self authentically. You know how to handle when you got a facade. In fact, for me, again, 3D, 4D states of consciousness aren't going anywhere. I know exactly what fancy women and man in suit are doing. They're giving anyone who wants to stay Cusco the possibility, like the Zen master, to stay that way. And I've met plenty of people who don't want to put into practice mindfulness daily or mindset. They want to be in their brave heart, power, empowerment, and justice. It's actually the fourth step to trauma healing. So trauma, when you hear the word, there's trauma charges, there's child trauma charge parts, okay? So please, I know it's been said we're using it a lot. And so there's a difference with people who have alters, okay? So there's a difference when we have big trauma. There's a difference when you have a person who is in the red, as Stephen Porges would put it, where they're completely reactive and they're offline, versus a yellow. And a yellow is like when I was yelling at my friend about me finding out what they hadn't told me, and me saying, I just asked you to be yourself a long time ago, and once again, here you are, you didn't be yourself. You played the facade card, you played the correctness. What is this? What is this? Why didn't you tell me how you thought? I don't understand. So learning how to be non-reactive, we can thank all of our oversoul members for those of us who get to have. So my friend is one of them. Also, you can better bet with lovers. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the mental, emotional, and physical mastery, because it feels really great to consistently embody more of. In fact, you'll get the download if you're mystic. I'm back to me again when you're embodying pure consciousness, which is this unconditional love, ventral vagal state with the restorative embodiment is what I'm going to let you know. Those words are the science's words. For the spiritual words, it's you're one with Akash, you're one with God, you're one with grace, you're one with one meaning, not the. Please, let's not use the God word that way, because we don't want to offend anyone. It's that you are part of that, which is a feeling of grace and bliss and protection and ease, and you are able to bring that to others, which is really important for those who are seeking to embody more of their self. And that's exactly why some people, they're not looking for the frequency of bliss and love. They're not comfortable in it. They're comfortable in shame, blame, fault, revenge, and all the lower frequencies, because their body is familiar with that. Those first 3 years of life, as Robert Sapolsky determines, shares, they can be out of it, but that needs them to want to go to EMDR, child parts work, and somatic sensory motor. A good therapist for as long as it takes. And to consistently work out of the maladaptive patterns of behavior, as Dr. Daniel Fox presents. He's an expert in personality disorders. It's the mindset, it's the choosing adaptive strategies, so new strategies to get out of the drugs, shame, fucking, drinking, whatever it is that you're doing. Also getting out of the trying to make up for void and anger. He's really great if you're interested in learning more about borderline and narcissism, on how to help and support those who are healing. And so, like I said, facades, there's going to be plenty of them, because adaptive patterns, adaptive child patterns, as Terry Real points out, they're rigid, unforgiving, harsh. They'll come into conversation not because they genuinely want to interact with you. It'll be already in a safety behavior. They're going to want to be right or wrong. They're going to make you into wherever they want to bring it. And because they're already charged, they're not even really hearing you out. So the part about learning is when you have a self-aware, accountable, regulating person, they don't bring their emotions and thoughts into the room as if they're irrefutable facts. They'll bring themselves into the room and want to enjoy interacting with all, in all ways, shapes, and forms, and it will be a consistent love to love, and love to live, and love to laugh, and love to dance, and love to expand. Okay, so there's going to be a consistent, curious, open, accepting, loving tone, and we're going to talk about how we think differently about that law, or that law about doing this or that. So nobody's going to set down the rules for anyone, but instead we explore, and then we conclude with hoping that all of our lovely globe can get it together, right? And that the best outcome is there for all. And that's what empowered people do. They don't do, how dare you use that word? You know what? I think you're using the wrong word. So anytime you get censored by anyone, remember, they don't know how to do grown up either. And I would say we're in a good sweet spot right now. We're beginning to talk about all these things, but what we really have is the attachment trauma therapists out there helping people to get to become functional adults. And that's why our group too, we have inner child adults / functional adults. We have the communication of, here's what I think, here's what I feel, here's how I saw this thing going, here's how it did go. So, hey, do we want to organize this in a different way? So, with my friend, for example, I simply allowed myself to understand by this event that they are not interested in hearing, which also, though, is completely something standard when people assume to know you. And when you have known each other your entire life, this is that part of where we all get accustomed. So my friend has known me since I was a kid, which is why I just told them we're not going to talk about this stuff anymore because you're not interested in it, you don't believe in it. And from that moment forth, we were able to recalibrate. As for, again, when you're with those who are not wanting to be their facade, you're going to notice because they're going to consistently show up as their self with awareness, accountability, and regulation skills. And so they don't project things. We'll be back with more on the mindfulness and spirituality, living and loving front, the 5D mystic enlightenment, pseudoscience, woo-woo lady way. But really, it's a way that supports anybody who's putting the inner growth mindset into practice, being yourself into practice. You have flaws, I have flaws, we have integrity. If you're interested in one-to-one mentorship, email me. If you want to be put on the list for the masterclass, email me. And the spirituality retreats, none are coming out anytime soon for the last two, but if you email me, you're going to be saving your spot. And when our YouTube membership content will be out, we'll have a list of those tiers. And in the meantime, you can subscribe to the audio podcast for paid subscription-based Ask Maria content. I think I have it in the description so you can read about it. But it's kind of like, Dear Abby, I have a question. Can you give me your opinion? Da da da. And that's only if you feel that there's something that my opinion and me can support you with. And if you know someone who does like to hear about a self-empowered lady's mystic story and or just hear also about how mindfulness works for real with facades and not facades. I love to love, and my baby, he loves to laugh, and they love to love, and they love to live, and they love to read, and they love to talk about everything. So we want to have fun, and eventually we're going to have fun all together. Send them IHP's way. On YouTube, and for the podcast, it's Spotify for podcasters, Amazon Music, you name it, a bunch of places. And that's about it. Well, main modules of the Inner Growth Mindset are on the main website, so that too, if you're curious. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day.